What? You there, Paul? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another hacked edition of the Free American Hour. Paul, are you still with me? Yes, sir. I can hear you. I can hear you. So we are recording, and there's music here. You're working on a new album now, aren't you, Paul? Well, we had our elections here, and you know, I'm not sure that the best choice we had didn't win here. Obama is horrible enough and bad enough that he's awakened a lot of Americans that just considered us conspiracy theorists until they got a real communist in power. What do you think? Well, they've always been really good about telling us in advance of what they're going to do. I mean, go back to the Civil War, which was created by and funded by the Rothschilds, who always fund both sides. But you got Albert Pike, the master mason, step up to the plate, and this is after the Masons had already been co-opted, because George Washington was a Mason. Some of our founding fathers were Masons before they got co-opted by the Illuminati. That's right, and they told us we were going to have a war with the Muslims, and he predicted 2 world wars and a third. That means all of the wars, including the upcoming war with Iran, was planned. We do. We do. And you know, I've said, and I'm not. I've got some people that come on my show that are really, you know, they're pretty adamant about the. Well, we're not going to solve it peacefully. We're not going to solve it peacefully, and the problem that we've got is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? We don't want to do the same thing to them that they want to do to us, and they're trying to set us up, man. They love the North fighting the South. They loved all the white folks in France and Russia and America fighting the white folks in Germany. They engineered that. They set it all up, didn't they? And Blog TV is controlled in Israel, and they came online and told me they were going to kick the show off the air. They succeeded, but they didn't quite. This isn't to demonize or, you know, I certainly don't want to go out and see anybody or allow anybody to kill. They're expanding on. Uh, and I oops.
Time just wasn't right. I felt you in your own space. Time just wasn't right. But if that was evident, cry when you're alone. Cause you've been there before you won't be coming home. I'll be drawn and let it be. Let it happen, let it breathe. Let me lead you, don't. Default like our Americana acoustic flavoring, like songs like "I'd Rather Die Than Be Your Slave," that's a Patriot favorite. "Prayer for America," another acoustic, Patriot favorite. But then we have a Alice in Chains, Zeppelin kind of rocking end with songs like "Illuminati," "Survive," "Break the Control." So when we're entertaining a wide variety of groups out there of American, first American loving groups,
I kind of miss Carl Klang. Have you heard from him, or have you had any updates? I haven't been able to get a hold of him. He hadn't called me, and I heard he had quite a few problems. And I used to be almost. I told myself
years, and we're always asking about him. And last person that I knew had contact with him was Jonathan David Brown, who's a Christian music producer, and he was working with him with some songs, and I haven't heard anything that came out of there or where he went from there. But keep him in your prayers, man. He's a good man.
he is, and you're also spanning. I talk a lot about the divide and conquer. Oh, you're a Republican? Well, I'm a Democrat. You're a liberal? Well, I'm a conservative. It's no. Born, and
Said for many years that as long as the sports keep showing and the beer keeps flowing, there'll be no revolution in America with decay. But things are going to get bad enough in this country that the middle class is going to be destroyed, and there will be the marchers, the troops in the streets, going back to the country that is our heritage, is the promise to our people who fought for this. I was born an American. I'm going to stay American. Anytime the Jew PR forces like the ADL call me names, I'm like, I'm an Americanite, man. You're an anti-Americanite. You're a pro-Satanite. So we need to reverse terms and words on these people that are basically traitors to this country.
well, that's what I've got up on my website. That the oldest religion on this planet is Satanism, and that's typified and recorded in the Talmud. And most Americans don't have any idea what the Talmud is. They think the Jews come from the Bible and that they're the Israelites. Well, sorry folks, that ain't quite what it is. They may have been there, but they were the Pharisees. They were the money changers at the temple, and the religion is satanic. If you read the Talmud, you can see it's satanic.
It's very anti-human and glorifies one supremacist sect, tribe. They're not even a race. They're just a tribe that follows an ideology of darkness. And now they've basically spread it to the rest of Americans because all they spew on the television all day long is death, despair, injustice. I don't know. I want my country back, man.
Be afraid. Be
it's time to kill
very.
off the vampires and zombies, man.
Well, you know, that's a interesting thing. Let's talk about that for just a moment. You know, there's been a rash of zombie. I mean, and some of it off of the news. You know, somebody eating somebody's face down in South Florida, and these we're being programmed for zombies, and people are, I think, they're being turned into zombies.
Well, yeah, they're eating all these Frankenfoods, man. And the labs are creating all these transhumanist chimera creations that are half human and half animal. Kind of like before the flood, with all this Nephilim having sex with all these different animals and creating like the minotaurs and the pangos and all these other folklore, you know, myths that were supposedly myths. But I believe one of the reasons why God killed off the first Earth was because there's just rampant, you know, degeneration of his original DNA, and the same thing's going on now. Humanity feels that they are God, that they can mess with the genetics of the plants and the animals and human beings. And anytime you mess with God's plan that way, he will destroy you. And Revelation says exactly how it's going to happen. So, Planet Wormwood's coming, baby.
Yep, it is happening right now. And I want to talk about another episode. Now, we did have one person running for president that was a good guy. It was a good guy. But you never saw him, and he ran under the Libertarian Party. Somebody I know personally, Gary Johnson, was running under the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, and he was a good governor for New Mexico for 2 terms.
He was, and now one of the things I've been demonized on here is, well, you know, Clay started a militia. That all comes from the ADL, Southern Poverty Law. You know, Clay started the militias. Yes, I damn sure did. I certainly did, folks. But I did it in Governor Gary Johnson's office. You know, and they're doing that right now. They're doing that right now down in Texas. They're working with the sheriffs. They're working with these people. They're trying to, the militia, or they're just using them as the posse, the sheriff's posse. And folks, we need that. We need that because it's going to get to the point here. You're going to need trained people to defend you. You're going to need people that aren't afraid to take up arms. They're going to overrun us. They did it with, and they used the Jews in the Soviet Union. They were all living beyond the pale. They were all living there. And then the Zionists came in and drove them out and drove them into Russia, so and put some of them in charge of the prison camps. It's happening again. It's just all happening again, folks. Your country, we gave $2 trillion. Bush gave away $2 trillion to the banksters as he was walking out the door.
Well, you know, he and his family own 1% of Harriman Bank, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, they've always been good dog boys for the international Jew bankers.
It's pretty incredible. They have, and they're working for the banksters. The banksters are our real enemies, and they fund both sides.
Well, can we do like Iceland then? Can we just arrest them, seize and forfeiture their assets, hold a trial, and then if they're found guilty of genocide, then we execute them like the Nazis, man?
We could if we had, if our government hadn't been taken over. You know, nobody went in and arrested the communists. Nobody went in and arrested Lenin. As a matter of fact, in Soviet Union, it was a executable offense. I call it a capable offense. They'd put a gun to your head and shoot your ass if you mentioned that Lenin and Marx were Jewish.
Oh yeah, and it does the same hate crime laws here in America. I keep telling people that all the right Bolshevik Jews are in all the right police positions to do to America what they did to Russia. So that means that 100 million Americans are about to die, and they're not even like clued in that they're being set up for extermination. They never read history. They never learn from it.
Well, that's again, that's control. That is the public fool system. And we have, there's answers to that, folks. Matter of fact, one of my sponsors here is Timothy Bible College and the Little Red Schoolhouse. You don't have to do this, folks. You don't have to let these people take over. You don't have to let them sit there and kill you. And they are drugging you down. They are drugging you down. My mother and grandmother were drug addicts. They took me when I was just 6 or 7 years old. We'd go to the doctor's office at least once a month so they could get their prescriptions. I thought Grandma was just old and feeble until I took one of her sleeping pills. That would be what we called in the biker community Reds. Took one of those, and if you could still walk after that, they thought you were a hell of a man, But the point I was getting to, somewhere I had a point there, is that Gary Johnson would have legalized hemp in this country, would have restored a $1 billion crop, and that was in the 30s. Popular mechanics referred to hemp as a $1 billion crop, and they demonized it and used the whole idea of marijuana, cannabis, sativa, been around for 10,000 years, been a staple for 10,000 years, and they made it illegal. You had to have a tax here. And what did they do? They started arresting people. Now, we've got more Americans in jail right now than any communist country out there. And we are the communist country. We are, and we were one of 3 that went against Germany. Now, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but he was popular. He was elected the same way Obama was, huh? Oops. You still with me?
Yeah, you blanked out for a second.
Okay. That happened.
Yeah, Gary Johnson was a 2-term governor that used his own money. He wasn't an establishment Republican candidate. I used to talk to him by phone and by email, and he was trying to start using ibogaine to cure the addicts in his state. But when he tried to get the ibogaine therapy going, the feds came in and said there's no way in hell that he was going to cure the people that they need to sell the drugs to out of Afghanistan for the Republicans and China for the Democrats, for the heroin coming into this country.
That's right, and we've got videos up, I believe, on my archives page about Rick Simpson, who is cured cancer with it. The THC resin comes from high-grade THC, and folks, it cures cancer. And if you smoke it, Harvard University has said that you don't get cancer from that. You don't get cancer from the cigarettes. Folks, the cigarettes is a prime example of what they're doing. I mean, the Native Americans, the Indians, were smoking tobacco for years. They didn't get cancer. It's the chemicals they put in it that give you cancer. Now,
well, my views on cancer is that it's a Jew-created disease. In the 10s and 20s, they were finding out that viruses cause cancers, different cancers in different pets would cause different cancers in humanity. Leukemia is a feline cancer. There's no reason why children from 0 to 10 should be getting any kind of cancer, let alone a cat cancer. And people like Raymond Rife were destroying cancer with more oscillatory death frequencies. So they basically made his off-fit research and anybody that knew him irrelevant and put out of business so that the $1 billion then and $1 trillion now baby could be basically birthed and causing, one, tons of money for them and tons of grief and misery for the rest of us because they never cure you. You know, they're witch doctors. They cut, slash, and burn you with chemo, radiation, and what's the other one? Oh, surgery. So, you know, for the Jew cartel, the medical death cartel, I think that is a money-making business. So if something doesn't make sense in this world, again, so, you know, wise a friend of mine said, if something makes a lot of, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but make a lot of somebody, you know, make it a lot of money. And we know who that's making that money.
The medical profession and the pharmaceutical company that funds it. I mean, these doctors are nothing more than high-paid drug dealers. And they're selling their product. They write that script from you, whether you're getting on Medicare or not. Somebody is getting that money. And it's a Jewish cartel. It's a Jewish crime syndicate. The markup on Luvox or Valium is 10 times that of marijuana, cocaine, heroin. And by the way, more people have died from prescription medicines than all the cocaine and heroin I've told you, but guess how many people have died from smoking marijuana?
None.
None.
None. Most, man.
None at all, folks. And that's, but, Clay advocates marijuana. He smokes marijuana, don't you know? Oh, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Well, don't send him any money because he might spend it on marijuana. I'll tell you what. If I smoked every day, which I don't, if I was stoned all the time, which I'm not, I still wouldn't spend as much money on pot as you do on beer. And by the way, you know, I've still got a little bit of a problem with the whole medical marijuana. Now, we've got medical marijuana in 16 states. We've got 2 states now that have stepped up, Washington and Colorado, and legalized it. But the feds can still bust you. The feds can still arrest you. The feds can still throw you in a federal prison because it's still illegal under federal law.
Well, you know what? The sheriffs of the counties where these people reside in need to arrest the federal officers that are doing their illegal actions in those counties. So it can't be stopped by the sheriff.
They can, and they have, but back in your neighborhood and in your neck of the woods, I believe it was Delaware, they went after the sheriff. They were going to go after the sheriff.
Yeah, the sheriff of Sussex County, we had him speak at the Freedom Palooza this past summer. It was excellent. Yeah, the guy that's trying to get rid of him is the vice president's son, Bill Biden, who's the attorney general.
That's right. So, folks, you know, it's what I've told you on my Facebook here. We are in a war. We are in a war. And when they gave Randolph Hearst enough money to build that castle there on the California coast so he could demonize marijuana, and what that did, that relieved the competition for his paper mills. He was cutting down the redwoods. He was making them into paper to print, you know, his propaganda on. And your Constitution, your Declaration of Independence, and your flag, and the first 100 years of Encyclopedia Britannica were printed on hemp paper. This is what they've stolen this from you. They've taken this from you. You can grow it in Russia. You can grow it in China. You can grow it in Canada. You can grow it in Mexico, but you can't grow it here. And why should I pay a doctor to get a script so I could smoke without fear of going to jail something I can grow in my backyard? Why would I do that?
Clay, it's as ridiculous as the cops going to your grandmother's store and busting down the door and stealing her 2 pounds of chocolate she has in the cupboard. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's just insane. And again, if something doesn't make sense, then some Jews making a buttload of money off of it.
That's right. And okay, let's talk about something else for just a second. Talking about making the money off of drugs, they keep it illegal, folks. So, So
there's a high profit involved then.
that's right, and the CIA and the Mossad. If you read my book, Mystery Babylon, the CIA and the Mossad are bringing in all of the cocaine here. They're bringing in all of the cocaine, all of the heroin, and your troops, your sons and daughters are guarding the opium poppy fields that the Taliban were trying to rub out. They were trying to destroy that. In my book, Mystery Babylon, I tell you about Operation Watchtower, in which George Bush funded and sent the special forces down to build the radio guide towers down in Colombia so they could guide planes into George Bush's partner, Manuel Noriega, who was being managed and controlled by the Mossad agent Michael Harari, who ended up killing Colonel Catolo. Whole story's in here.
Yeah, did he also kill JFK Jr. and his wife and baby that was in her stomach?
What's that now?
I think Michael Harari was the last person to see JFK Jr. fly out, and he bragged about it. So it makes me wonder if he was the one that put the bomb in the tail end of JFK Jr.'s plane.
What was that name?
Michael Harari, the guy, the Mossad agent. I believe he was the last one to see JFK Jr.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that, but he was definitely over in Libya and probably responsible for getting that knife shoved up the ass of Gaddafi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Yeah, matter of fact, one of my guests here from Veterans Today, Gordon Duff, identified Michael Harari, and he is talked about and named in my book. And by the way, one of the at that point in time, I met Barry Seal. Turned me on to some of the best Oaxacan I've ever had.
Of course.
I didn't know who he was at the time. He just strolled in, but he was murdered because they didn't want you to find it out. They didn't want you knowing what was going on. So it's they keep these drugs illegal. I mean, I wrote a book about it 45 years ago about what would happen if we abolished all the laws against victimless crime. Well, it would set you free. We wouldn't be spending so much money on prisons. It wouldn't be such a. We got more Americans in prison than any communist country right now, folks. It ain't the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, it's going to get worse with all these hate crime tribunals that the Jews and the ABI are going to set up. They're already infiltrating the school systems with this supposedly anti-bully, no place for hate campaign. Anybody listening out there, go to the website noplaceforcorruption.com. And it'll expose the whole Jewish syndicate that's running this country right now. No place for corruption.
Now, I think we should hear the one of your songs. We talked about this, Vaseline. Let's do that.
Okay. How's it fun?
I think we can do that.
I'm gonna raise a farm now with some pigs and some chickens too. I'm gonna dig the earth and grow the finest blood too. And I can see for miles and miles of heaven green. And growing all America strong on handmade gasoline. Smoke lots of guns and marijuana.
That is Pokerface, and my guest today is Paul Topete, and this is part of this is what you're reaching some younger people with this. And of course I like the music too. I love listening to your albums, and folks, if you want to, this is one way to turn people on, to tell people what's happening. And now, I'm not this. We're giving you information here. I really don't give a shit whether you smoke or don't. I don't care what you drink. I don't care what your religion is, as long as you aren't trying to force it on me. Constitution takes care of you. If you want to beat your head against that wailing wall, knock yourself out. I'll watch. Don't try to get me to do it too. And if you want to get on your hands and knees, now what they're doing, folks, is they're trying to demonize the Muslims. They're trying to make you think all Muslims are bad, and they are running them in on this country. But if you want to get on your hands and knees, stick your nose in the dirt, and stick your ass up in the air 2 or 3 times a day, I'll try to keep the Saint Bernard off of you. I don't care. The Constitution protects you on that. Don't try to force me to do that. Don't try to put a veil on my daughters. Don't try to control us. And that goes for the Catholic Church out there too, which has been infiltrated and taken over by the wise hops and the Jesuits and all that. You might as well call them Jesuits or something, right?
Well, Jesuits is right, man.
All right, we're Jesuits. That's it. That's it, folks. And if you want to, I mean, I've got a thing right up here that says, in times of this, patriots are in short supply. But what I told you and what Paul Topete told you 10 years ago is happening today. Sounded kind of fantastic then. Sounded like we were imagining things. Sounded like we were extremists or radicals, and we're not. I refer to myself as the canary in the coal mine.
Well, no, yep.
And because I came out first, because I told you about 9/11. Because I've told you about what NAFTA and GATT was going to do, what their dark side of it was, and you know what NAFTA did? It killed the income of the farmers in Mexico, and so they drove them up here, and that was NAFTA that did that, folks.
Yeah, NAFTA was the one that brought the last 30 to 40 million illegals up here because they're reacting to the bad economic decisions that we made up here, or allowed the prostitution to do to us.
Now, folks, you may get off of work tonight and go home, and you are probably going to do something that will help destroy America. And you don't even know you're contributing to it, but you are, when you turn that television on. And I love your description of it, Paul. Talmudic vision.
Talmudic vision, yeah, exactly. Because that's what it's used 24/7.
They don't call it programming for nothing.
All three of the names are blaspheme. Yeah.
They don't call it programming for nothing. Buy this pharmaceutical, but you need this drug. Boy, that's gonna give you a hard on, That's this one's going to control your cholesterol. Well, guess what? I probably, if I went to be tested, I probably got high cholesterol. It don't matter. It don't matter. It's a reason to sell you stuff. Keep your body alkaline. Your body will fight off the disease. God did design us to be perfect. And by the way, Jesus told you can do what I do and more. Listen to Dr. Jake Wade from the Dean of Timothy Bible College. He'll tell you the truth about your religion. It's and what you can do is buy a Pokerface album. You can get it online. The links are up there. You can listen to the music, and you can make a donation. If you make a donation to the Free American right now, well, go to PayPal.com and put in Free American 69 or Free American Clay at freeamerican.com. You can send me a donation. I will send you one of my books. I've got 3 books out, and the Free American is linked, and Mystery Babylon is nonfiction. I've decided in the future, Paul, I'm just going to write science fiction because most Americans can't handle the truth, and my fiction books, One Bloody Alabaster Eye, Deadly Flashes of Silver, is more believable than my nonfiction Mystery Babylon. So,
dude, you gotta throw in a couple vampires and a couple zombies, and then it'll become a cult classic.
Yes. Well, I'm actually doing something different. I'm saying that maybe Lucifer wasn't this is on the upcoming novels that I wrote 45 years ago, and I'm finishing off this next year. And I propose that maybe Lucifer was a good guy, and the God of the Jews, the ones that wanted Abraham to kill his son, is a test of loyalty. I'm suggesting that maybe that God was the false God. That was Satan pretending to be Yahweh, and we've been deceived for thousands of years. And the whole satanic movement, the satanic control, typified by the Talmud, is that's what's really happening. That's who we are. Yeah, the zombies are all around us, they say in the chat room. They are, and and the Bible tells you about it. You just can't go out and separate the tares from the wheat. The bad guys look just like us. They talk just like us. Until you start understanding that they're trying to control you, they're trying to silence you, they're trying to steal from you. And our founding fathers knew it. Our Thomas Jefferson warned you, if you ever allow a private bank, which is all Jewish control, sitting right there in the city of London, pulling the Queen's strings, puppet strings. If you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, the banks and the corporations that rise up around them will leave your children homeless in the land that we conquered.
I think the list would be a lot shorter if we named the areas of influence the Jews don't have or don't own. Do you know of any off the top of your head?
No. Oh, well, one. There's one that they don't. One source of news, one source of media that they don't own, and they can't infiltrate it like they do the Tea Parties, like they do the Occupy movement. Occupy movements are to try to create a division between you and the police, and the police ought to be working on your side, helping you. They should have been escorting the people to the Federal Reserve Bank on the Occupy Wall Street. But the only thing they showed you was some guy taking a shit on a police car. And they showed you the police marching on the people, and be afraid, be very afraid. Look, the police were supposed to work for us. Doesn't work like that in a communist country, and that's what we have, ladies and gentlemen. We have a communist country. We joined with Uncle Joe Stalin, the man that murdered 100 million Russians. And by the way, those Russians, they tried to tell you the Russians were the bad guys. They were white Christian Russians that were killed.
Right. Oh, man. Same in Ukraine, same in Eastern Europe, Yeah, but we never hear about those deaths, man. So, I want to separate temple and state with this, all this Holocaustianity programming in our schools. It's like, if you're teaching about one supposed genocide, then all genocide should be taught or none at all.
It should be all be taught, and the other one you don't hear about are the 100 million killed in China when the man we supported, Mao Zedong, we supported him over Chiang Kai-shek. We provided the weapons and all that so he could drive Chiang Kai-shek down to Taiwan, and they're still after Taiwan. They're still after the free people. Yeah, okay, I like this. My guest, one of my guests here, one of the ones that isn't a troll, says God and Satan are the same Jewish deity. Lucifer is a good guy. He's not a Jew. He's the white deity. I like that. That goes along real well with my the screenplay that's available on my site there, folks. All right. Paul, we got about 3 minutes left here. We lost a little bit, but I think we got most of the hour here controlled.
Okay, brother. Thanks for having me up.
And we'll have this will all be linked. I'll have the YouTube video. That'll be up, and we've got over 1,000 episodes on YouTube. Go there. If you're just now hearing this, go up, sign up, subscribe to it, and we'll be putting about all of these episodes up here. The guys that wanted to blog this show, guess what? You failed. You failed, you dumb suckers. And I want to close this with Control by Pokerface.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk soon.
When I was young, my teacher told me that I was free. And as a child, I grew up programmed by TV. As a teen boy, I found out just how free is free. Lots of good talk from some good smoke. While I can't on me, we're gonna take back control. Control, freedom, control. Gonna take control. This is my soul. What's he gonna take to make us realize that we're not free? Standing up for your rights, only doing what's right. They'll knock you to your knees. What's he gonna take to make you wake up? You gotta fight to stay free. It always takes a spark to set things off. Say you want a revolution, yeah. We're gonna take back control. us in the skies, broadcasting lies. Billions of people.
All right. A little bit, keep on doing this. Let's keep on doing this. Prayer for America by Pokerface.